All right, thanks everybody for taking a couple of minutes today to look at CertAssurance. We've added a few new features since the previous videos, and rather than create feature or videos rather that showcase those particular features, what I decided to do was just go ahead and go back and create a new comprehensive demo video that has all of the features and everything in the current state of CertAssurance. As of today, the day I'm recording this, which is July 14th, 2021. So this is the website you'll see when you go to CertAssurance.com. This is the main page. It has a quick overview of the benefits and features associated with CertAssurance. There's a page that has an in-depth look at those features and benefits. And then, if your interest is piqued at this point, you have the ability to click on a button called Request a Demo, and CertAssurance would send me an email notifying me of that. I would reach out and we would get set up. So, obviously at the end of this video, if you are interested in what you've seen, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is tim@CertAssurance.com. All right, so we'll go ahead and get logged in here and get to the application. So it's going to take you to this screen where it's going to ask you for your login credentials. You can go ahead and click the login button there. It's going to take you to your dashboard here. And as you can see, there's a little bit of information on this dashboard just from some other previous work that I was doing with demoing a customer. It's coming from test property 1 down here. We'll go ahead and what we'll do is we'll go ahead and delete that guy out of there so we can start fresh. And as you can see, the dashboard is updated because there's no more information to track. But just hitting the highlights of this area on the dashboard, this wheel is going to populate when you have tenants and vendors with COIs. Green is going to indicate a fully compliant insurance certificate. Yellow is going to indicate an insurance certificate that's expiring soon based upon thresholds that you set up. And then a red wheel is going to indicate any existing insurance certificates you have that are already expired. And in addition, over here on the left-hand side, there's going to be a list of, a quick overview of how many total properties you're managing, and then on all of those properties, how many total tenants and vendors you have, as well as an alphabetized list down here of the existing properties you have under your account within CertAssurance. Then over here on the left-hand side, you'll see the main menu, which includes the dashboard, excuse me, which is what we're looking at here. You'll see a list of all the properties that you're managing, and then you'll see a list of all the tenants and all the vendors that exist at those properties. So right now, there's neither tenant nor vendor at the properties, but we're going to go ahead and add one in real quick. Additionally, on this page, you'll see a list asking for a list of expired certificates you have. It's going to give you the total, and then if you clicked on View Now, it would show you if you had any, what they were, and then another quick overview of how many upcoming expirations you have within the next 30 days. And then this request all ACORD 25 is a request by email feature that we're going to get into a little bit later. And then just above that, you have your alert tray, which is going to show you any sort of alerts coming through your system that you probably should be paying attention to. So ordinarily, if you went to add a new property, you would click on the Add Property button here, and it would bring up information for you to add a property. But since I've already got a test property set up down here at Test Property 1, and it's fresh, there's no tenants or vendors, we have an activity log down here that shows when adds, deletions, and changes happen. So that's why you see quite a bit of information down there, just some work that I've been doing on this demonstration account. But we'll go ahead and just take a look at these buttons up here before we go to the Edit Property button, which is going to take us to an identical workflow as if we were setting up the property from scratch. So the first button here is called Requirements. It's going to show you what the existing configured contact information and insurance requirements are for the property. So not only do you have the limits of the insurance types that you can specify here, you can also specify additional named insured information as well as certificate holder information. There's a notes section, which is just free-form text entry. So if there are any notes or any sort of text entry you'd like to do associated with this particular property, you have the ability to do it by clicking on the notes section there. The Request All ACORD 25 button is here again, and again we'll get into that feature a little bit later. And then we'll go ahead and click on Edit Property. So this is going to take us to this exact same window that you would see if you were setting it up from scratch, where it's going to ask you for your property name, the property address, and then the contact information for your preferred property contact. Maybe that's you, or maybe that's somebody else. It's just asking you there for referential purposes. We don't actually do anything with this information. And then at this point, you actually have the option of setting up what you want your automated notification threshold to be. So at either 15, 30, 60 days, or you can disable the feature completely. CertAssurance will send you an email reminding you of an upcoming certificate expiration for any tenant or vendor that you have under this particular property. So once you, most of my customers go for the 30-day window here. I don't think anybody has disabled it. A couple of people have chosen 16 and 15 days. So from the next step here, it'll take you to where you enter in the additional named insured and certificate holder information. So this is going language is going to come directly out of your management agreement with the ownership company for your property. So that's a simple cut and paste if you have that handy electronically. Next, you'll be taken to where you set up vendor rules. So you have the options to set up insurance rules for all of the fields that exist and types that exist within the ACORD 25 certificate of insurance form. Then there's also a custom window down here that's going to account for any sort of custom or less common insurance types that you might have, such as, I've had customers have employee practices liability, garage keepers liability for the if you have a company that manages your parking garage, that would maybe go here. Pollution, employee theft, dishonesty. And it's really easy to add something to this list if you have a requirement that you don't see here. So that's absolutely not a barrier to using CertAssurance. But you do have the option of using that custom, entering in a custom line item as well, in addition to all the standard stuff. Then next, you would do the exact same thing for your tenants that you've already done for your vendors. And then once you're done and you click next step, your property has been successfully set up and you're ready to start adding tenants and vendors. So we'll go ahead and add a tenant here to test property 1. We'll call the tenant test tenant 1. And I'll go ahead and put myself in as the tenant contact with my contact information. And then quickly want to just refer to this insurance agent name and email address. So we were talking about this request all ACORD 25 request by email button a little bit earlier. When you go to request an insurance certificate by email, you can do so manually, or the system can do so automatically on your behalf. And you have the option of designating, hey, do I want this email notifying my tenant of an upcoming expired or a certificate of insurance that has problems with it? Do I want that to go to the tenant contact for that tenant, or do I want to get that to go to the insurance agent instead for that tenant? And maybe for some you would want it to go to the contact, maybe for others you'd want it to go to the agent. You have the ability to put their information in here, and then down here you can select whether it goes to the contact agent, or if it's initial setup, it's disabled for now, and then we just activate it later. So I'll go ahead and put my information in here as well for the insurance agent, and then change up my my email address for the agent, so you can see that it is in fact using 2 different email addresses. At this point, we're prompted to upload the ACORD Form 25 COI for this tenant. We'll go ahead and do that. We're picking a real-world insurance certificate here. This isn't one that I've created for demo purposes. This is one that was sent to me from a customer that we actually have on file for this. This is actually a vendor for that customer, but this is a real-world insurance certificate. And at this point, if we clicked on Save Tenant, we would save this tenant, and it would be evaluated against the insurance requirements that were defaulted for the tenant for that property. However, if this particular tenant had insurance requirements that were unique and a little bit different from the property default, we have the ability to customize the insurance requirements for this tenant, and setting up custom custom insurance requirements for this particular tenant. But we'll go back just to the default screen here. We'll save and use the property defaults. And because we have that custom line item in there, what CertAssurance is going to do is actually pick up a little bit of a screenshot of the actual COI, and it's going to show us, hey, you've put employee practices liability for $1 million as a custom requirement. This is where we're expecting that custom requirement to show up. Does this match the requirement that you've set up? And it doesn't match, so we'll go ahead and click on no. And then we'll go over to the tenant here, and what CertAssurance is going to do over the next 15 to 20 seconds is read the document, check and see if there's any issues with it, And then it's going to send up where it says processing right now. There's going to be a little alerts tab that shows up if there are any issues. So right on cue, and this is all being done live, by the way. There's no editing for time or anything in here. So right on cue, CertAssurance came up and let me know, hey, you have 3 issues with this particular insurance certificate. So we'll go ahead and click on those alerts, and we'll see what the problems are here. So it looks like our COI, additional named insured text, is incorrect. Looks like our certificate holder information is incorrect, and it looks like, hey, the insurance certificate actually expired a couple of months ago, and you need a new one. And there are potentially instances, like especially in these text fields here, where maybe the tenant has information that is substantively correct here, and the only difference is they, instead of spelling suite out all the way, they abbreviated it STE. It's going to show up as an error within CertAssurance because it doesn't match exactly. But you as a property manager can actually go in and say, hey, you know what, that's substantively correct. I don't need to track that anymore. We'll go ahead and override that error, and we'll save. And then as you can see, it decrements the alert count by 1 because it's ignoring this error for now. It's not clearing the error out, it's simply ignoring it. So if you go back and you decide, hey, you know what, maybe I was incorrect, maybe it's substantively incorrect, we can un-override that error, click save, and then it'll re-increment that error back up to the previous count. So now that you've got a tenant added in there, we'll take a look at some of the elements we see on the tenant line item here. Adding a vendor is the exact same workflow, so we won't go through that in this video, but the workflow is exactly the same. All the options are identical. But you can view the certificate of insurance associated with this tenant. So we actually pull up an image of the of the actual COI for you to view. And you can zoom in on it and just make sure it is what it says it is, that everything's in line there. We have a notes section for this individual tenant as well. Again, this is free form text entry, so if you have notes you want to keep here for this tenant, you're able to do that. There is, again, the activity window for test property 1 down here. You have the ability of uploading a new COI if that's what you want to do. And then we have this request by email feature here that we talked about earlier. So what CertAssurance can do, either manually by clicking on this request by email feature, or it can do it automatically. If you look at this automatic request new certificate here, that we go ahead and leave that, leave that disabled for now. CertAssurance can automatically send out an email on your behalf, notifying the tenant or vendor or their insurance contacts that they have an upcoming expiration date on their COI and they need to submit a new one to you, or they have a COI under management by CertAssurance right now for your particular property that's incorrect for, it's got incorrect limits, additional name insured is incorrect, certificate holder information is incorrect. A variety of, any of those options will show up as something that's in this notification email to this tenant or insurance agent contact for CertAssurance in this email that they'll get from us. So we'll go ahead and go back to the property view here, test property 1, go to our tenants list. We'll go ahead and click on request by email here. And so you have the option of sending this email request from CertAssurance to the tenant contact or insurance agent. And as you can see, it is using 2 different email addresses for that. Or you can enter in a custom one-off email address here if you just wanted to send a different third party for some reason. But we'll go ahead and send it to the insurance agent. And this is going to send an email to the insurance agent associated with that tenant or vendor requesting a new COI from them. And it's also going to list the issues with that COI, and it's going to give that tenant contact or tenant insurance agent or vendor contact or vendor insurance agent the correct information they need in order to submit to you a compliant COI. So like I said, we'll send this to the insurance agent. We'll click on request. The email has been sent. Go ahead and close that out. And I'm just going to go ahead and go over to my email inbox here where we should see the email pop in here shortly. And there we go. We have received an email invite from CertAssurance to upload a new COI for this particular tenant at this particular property. So as you can see, the email says, hey, we've noticed some issues that you have on file with test tenant 1 at property 1. The insurance certificate expired on May 2021. Click on the button here to go to CertAssurance to upload a new insurance certificate. So your tenant or vendor contact would click on this button and then they would be brought to this window where they're given the option to upload a new document to CertAssurance that presumably is correct. We're also showing them these are the liability limits. These are the insurance limits that they're required to have. This is what the additional named insured text needs to be. And if the insurance agent or tenant contact just copied and pasted this text directly from this particular screen and put it onto the COI, you would have a compliant COI for these line items. So we show them all the requirements that they're required to have, and then they can click right here and upload the insurance certificate that they need to. So we'll go ahead and just upload the same one, just so you can see that the validation process for this method of uploading an insurance certificate into CertAssurance is going to be identical to if the property manager were doing it themselves. So again, this is what the tenant or vendor insurance agent or tenant or vendor contact is going to see. So this is an email that's being done on your behalf by CertAssurance. This doesn't hit your inbox at all. This goes directly to your tenant or vendor. So we've selected the same insurance certificate that we already have, and we'll click on Next. So the same validation process, again, that you experienced when you uploaded the certificate of insurance directly is the same process as being applied here. It's just as rigorous. There's nothing different. It's just being presented a little bit differently because it's a different type of user. So again, it's 15 to 20, maybe 30 seconds for CertAssurance to read the document, evaluate it against the insurance requirements that you've set up, and then and this feedback is going to be immediate. It's going to be given to the tenant contact or insurance agent, and they're going to be notified immediately if there are any issues with the COI. We know there are because we've already looked. And again, this is all done in real time. There's no editing for time or anything that's going on here. So the immediate feedback is given to the tenant or the vendor contact saying, hey, here are the things that are incorrect with your insurance limits associated with the document. So they have the option at this point of correcting the errors, uploading new, or in the event where there's something that's a false positive or the insurance, information, for example, here in certificate holder, again, is substantively correct. It says, but they abbreviated STE instead of spelling out suite. They have the option of submitting anyway. So if you click on submit, submit anyway, this is the end of the workflow for that tenant or vendor contact. So they're done at this point. And then you're going to get an email from CertAssurance. It's telling you, hey, somebody has uploaded, you've requested a third-party upload, or CertAssurance requested a third-party upload automatically on your behalf. They have uploaded a document to CertAssurance. Click here to go look at it. So you'll click there to go look at it. That'll bring up your CertAssurance window, but we already have it here. So we'll go back and take a look at the tenant and see what the alerts are. Might take a minute to, let's go ahead and force a refresh here just to get it to bring up the information that we need. There's a bunch of, go down to test property 1, go to tenants. Oh, there's 5 alerts now. What's happening here? So, employee practices liability, again, because we have this custom requirement, it's going to show that particular section of the insurance certificate. And hey, this doesn't match, so we'll keep it, unlike last time when we hit yes. And this insurance certificate was uploaded by a third party, so you get this notification here. And it's just asking you if you want to save it, if you want to upload a new one because you happen to have one, or if you want to turn around and force them to send another one again by sending them a new email invite to request by email. But we'll go ahead and save this. And then we have the ability to do this at the whole request by email workflow that we just went through there. We have the ability to do this at the property level or at the entire portfolio level as well. So if we go back to the dashboard here, and again, because we have an expired insurance certificate, it's showing up now. Because we can actually do this at the entire portfolio level. So if you want to send out, and I don't have customers that do this, by the way, but if you wanted to, you had the ability to send out an email blast to every single tenant and vendor that you have under management, all of your properties, all at the same time, telling them, and these emails actually only go out to tenants and vendors that have issues with their insurance certificates. If a tenant or vendor has a fully compliant COI on file with you, they don't get one of these emails. But you have the ability to send out an email blast to every tenant or vendor on the list, and that's showing for the entire portfolio. But if we go down here to for test property 1 and request all, see we have the ability there to show. Yeah, you know what? This is just it's a confirmation email. Or a confirmation window rather. This is who's going to get an insurance certificate. And if you didn't want it to work that way, you actually have a multi-select box here where you can cherry pick the tenants or vendors that you would like this email to go out to. And then when you hit the request ACORD 25 button again, it's just going to show you a list of everybody that you're going to send an email to as a sanity check confirmation step before you do send out the request. But we'll go ahead and request all again. The email is going to go to whoever the default you picked contact wise. So this is, in this instance, you selected the default as insurance agent, so that's who the email is going to go to. And as we can see, we'll get a new in a second. We'll get a new email here asking us to go through the same workflow that we've already been through. So that's a quick look at CertAssurance. Again, if you have any questions, you're interested by what you see, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is tim@certassurance.com. And again, thank you for spending time with us today.